How do you feel about your DMs with Drake being leaked to the world?
My DMs were never leaked. It's not my DMs.
There's a lot of people posting DMs.
I don't know why they
allegedly-
think
Y'all was saying some weird shit, bro. I wasn't gonna say
Hold on,
nothing. Because you my brother. No.
A lot of it
not
was
my DM.
grand, but some of it
Why
looked like
was
it
you
was too,
comparing
right?
briefs?
No, what?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Kendrick Lamar, because while the so-called Ice Spice Man is flopping, Young Thug is copping pleas, and the rest of that washed up side of hip-hop is basically torching their own careers, Kendrick is moving different. Imagine this. The first rapper in history to have a walking cupcake try to make a whole concept album about him, and instead of even acknowledging the nonsense, Kendrick just turned it into fuel for something massive that feels like it's about to drop. He hasn't touched the lame antics, hasn't bitten into the circus, and yet he's still winning, and winning big. Every time the rap game hits a new low with all these public crash outs, Kendrick shows up outside shining at a brand new high. The contrast is crazy. Hit that like button if you see what's happening, because if you're still rocking with that Iceman crew, you're probably furious right now. Hip-hop in 2025 is drowning in chaos, losers ranting, rats snitching, delusion taking center stage. It's ugly, loud, and messy, and yet, inside this dumpster fire of a scene that we all hope gets buried by 2026, there's one man standing tall with the blueprint in his hand, Kendrick Lamar. He's the one who sparked the dominoes to fall, the one whose presence flipped the whole balance. And now, he's just sitting back grinning while the pretenders self-destruct. Because the truth has finally come out. The major players have revealed themselves, and every fake thing they claim to represent has been exposed. Their personas? Fictional? Their legacies? Crumbling. Meanwhile, Kendrick's aura is the only thing in the culture still untouchable. And that's why the streets are buzzing that he's plotting his next move right now. See, this is where Kendrick Lamar proves he's the complete opposite of the chaos. While everybody else is out here acting like grown man babies whining over not getting features, Kendrick is standing taller than ever, shining as a real beacon of inspiration in hip-hop. Meanwhile, the so-called Ice Spice Man is off doing whatever it is he does. Honestly, can we even classify that as music anymore? But Kendrick, he just stepped back outside and dropped a message to the whole world, and he didn't even need a diss track to do it. Instead, he rolled out a brand new campaign with Gatorade. Right as the NFL season kicks off, the NBA season is gearing up, and the WNBA playoffs are heating up. That's not just a feature spot. That's Kendrick inserting himself into the same spotlight reserved for elite athletes, and he's holding his own like he's part of that club. And here's the kicker. Kendrick didn't just pop up for a few seconds in the ad and bounce. Nah, he delivered a whole new speech, some of the most we've heard him actually speak all year. Before, the campaign had been using that peekaboo joint, but now Kendrick came in with his words, his presence, and flipped the whole vibe. The very first thing he hit us with? How much sweat are you willing to lose? That's his first statement since this whole wave of crash outs in rap. Then he followed it up with something even heavier. Because when you do that, you can surpass the height. You inspire generation after generation. That's not rap beef talk. That's generational leadership in motion, and the timing couldn't be more perfect. You can compete against anything. That's how Kendrick set the tone before closing it all out, repeating the question that's been ringing through this whole campaign. So how much are you willing to lose? His point was crystal clear. The amount you're willing to sacrifice is the true measure of how much you're willing to win. And here's where it gets wild. Kendrick doesn't even feel like he belongs in the same convo as these rappers anymore. The way he moves, the way he preaches truth and lives it out, puts him in a category with athletes chasing greatness. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Cooper Flagg, Caitlin Clark. These are competitors clawing for GOAT status in their lanes, while rappers around Kendrick are busy chasing the title of rat or playing Pinocchio with their fake stories. It's embarrassing. This whole speech hit harder because it dropped in a moment where the rap industry looked softer than tissue paper. For over a decade, some so-called big names tried to run the game, but now they're exposed, fragile, and folding in public. And then Kendrick steps up, reminding everybody that greatness only comes through real sacrifice, sweat, and a drive to inspire generations that come after you. Those words have never mattered more. Every loser calling themselves a rapper right now needs to take notes, because if they lived by Kendrick's message, they'd actually be leveling up instead of spiraling down. And what makes this even more iconic is the timing. These Gatorade collabs don't just drop at random. Last time, it landed right as Joey and Drake were out here yapping at him. Now again, Kendrick's message arrives like a thunderclap. Perfect timing, perfect precision, and impossible to ignore. And when we talk about timing, nothing could have lined up smoother than this moment. While Drake is at home trying to play Martin Scorsese with his music videos, and Young Thug is out here proving he's really more of an actor than a rapper, Kendrick Lamar is keeping it all the way real and bagging trophies to prove it. On the same night, he took home multiple Emmys for his legendary Super Bowl halftime performance and grabbed VMAs for Not Like Us. The overlap alone makes the whole thing even crazier. But let's be clear, the Emmys are the real headline here, because Kendrick just stamped his name in history again. He's now officially the third person ever to hold multiple Emmys, Grammys, and a Pulitzer Prize. Yes, you heard that right. In history. That's a level of achievement most artists, not just rappers, can't even dream of touching. And here's the part that drives the Ice Spice Man stans insane. This ain't about some industry setup or rigged favoritism. While they sit around in OVO-branded tinfoil hats crafted by academics, Kendrick is busy stacking real accolades that no conspiracy theory can explain. He's winning simply because he stood on truth, on integrity, and on artistry that no one else could even fathom. That's exactly why Kendrick doesn't just belong in rap convos anymore. He's shoulder to shoulder with cultural giants, the #1 NBA draft pick shining on the court, and two of the biggest names dominating pro football. Kendrick isn't just part of the music conversation, he's cementing himself in the conversation of global greatness, period. Watching Kendrick Lamar climb higher and higher while so many rappers around him are crashing out, getting canceled, or flat out embarrassing themselves. That alone feels like one of the biggest accomplishments in music right now. The contrast is brutal, and while his rivals stumble, Kendrick's out here stacking Emmys on top of his Grammys and Pulitzer Prize, flexing a resume that looks untouchable. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Beyond all the awards, there's been a rumor bubbling heavy in the rap world. Whispers are floating that Kendrick might be about to drop again, and soon. And this isn't just fan speculation. Devin Malik, part of TDE, and a producer who's done serious work with names like Doechii and Schoolboy Q, just sparked the conversation even more. He hit social media with a post that looked like a major hint at something big on the horizon, and people are convinced it's tied directly to Kendrick. Why does that matter? Because Devin Malik was also the first one to confirm that Kendrick had a new album coming last year, which turned out to be GNX. And we all know how that shook the culture. So when Malik drops a cryptic clue, you already know fans are reading between the lines. And the speculation that Kendrick's about to spin the block with another bombshell is reaching fever pitch. And honestly, it feels possible. Kendrick has been too quiet in the middle of all this chaos, too focused while everyone else is spiraling, for there not to be something brewing. Whether it's next week, next month, or next season, people are bracing for that drop. But even if it doesn't happen immediately, the fact that TDE is clearly locked in, making music, sharpening sounds, and keeping the energy tight, it means Kendrick's next move is already in motion. And when it lands, it's going to be huge. Now let's shift to what Kendrick's own circle, his close friends and people around him, have been saying about this moment. Because while Kendrick has been moving with silence and precision, Drake has been spiraling out, going weirder than ever with an album that feels less like a project and more like a Kendrick Lamar obsession diary. Let's be real. The so-called Ice Spice Pen's White Man record is nothing but an infatuation album aimed straight at Kendrick, no matter how he tries to dress it up. And then there's Young Thug, who despite all his public apologies, never backed down from what he said about Kendrick. But here's the thing, Kendrick already knew. Word is, he was aware of Thug's little phone call from the jump, the disses, the slick talk, and the fallout it caused. Kendrick also had to know that in the middle of all this, Thug was taking shots at Baby Keem, his own cousin, while showing Drake the kind of blind loyalty that just made him look like a hypocrite. That's wild. But here's the genius part. Kendrick didn't need to clap back on Twitter, didn't need to post shade, didn't even need to acknowledge it in interviews. Just like always, he left the real answers inside the music. Almost a year ago, he had already mapped this whole thing out on GNX, his blockbuster 2024 album. The bars, the hidden layers, the coded lines, they weren't just songs, they were chess moves. What we're realizing now is that Kendrick was steps ahead, addressing all of this before it even fully exploded. That's why people are catching new meanings in his lyrics today that they missed when the album first dropped. He wasn't reacting, he was predicting. That's what separates a master lyricist from everybody else drowning in gimmicks. And with GNX standing as an all-time great body of work, the warning it sent out to the entire rap game feels bigger now than anyone imagined. When it first dropped, people knew Kendrick was coming for Drake, for 50 Cent, for Puff, and even though some of his shots at legends like Lil Wayne and Snoop weren't direct disses, they were still loaded messages. But now, we're realizing there was way more heat hidden in those verses, and Young Thug was on the hit list too. See, the genius of Kendrick's writing is how layered it is. On the surface, you might think a line is aimed at one person, like that infamous bar where he said people are cackling about blank. Everyone assumed it was Puff. But when you line it up with Thug's own story and the timing of his phone call, the bars fit him perfectly too. Kendrick could have blurred that name out on purpose, letting the line carry double meaning. Puff and Jeffrey, that's next level penmanship. And when he followed it up with, "All of you are on trial," it hit even harder. It wasn't just one man on the stand, it was the entire rap industry being judged, exposed, and held accountable. Fans are now going back, replaying GNX, and realizing Kendrick may have been signaling at Thug's betrayal long before the call ever leaked. Then there's the Gunna line on Euphoria. When you piece it together with the blurred out moment, it's like Kendrick was weaving a coded mural of the whole situation. Puff, Thug, the fake alliances, the shady loyalty games. It's art, but it's also a weapon. And on Squabble Up, in the second half of the track, he seemed to close the book on the whole mess with one of the sharpest closing verses of his career. Now let's be clear. There's no official proof Kendrick actually heard Thug's desperate phone call, crying over not getting a feature. But when you hear the bars, the precision, the way everything lines up, it's almost like Kendrick had the blueprint to the fallout before it even happened. That's the mastery, predicting the crash outs before the crash even hit. When you really sit back and study the bars, it's almost impossible not to see the alignment. Either Kendrick Lamar got his hands on that infamous phone call directly, or someone close relayed every word of Jeffrey's rant about not getting a feature. Thug was furious, hurt that Kendrick straight up declined him, and in the process, exposed his own hypocrisy. That bitterness bled into the industry, and Kendrick flipped it into art. Now here's where it gets heavy. When you break down the verse, there's no way this is coincidence. Every syllable feels too sharp, too precise, too tailored to the fallout. And because Young Thug let his frustration spill publicly, Drake's side of hip-hop looks more fragile than ever. The mask is slipping, and Kendrick's words are the spotlight exposing it all. But he didn't stop there. Kendrick's pen doesn't just target one man, it casts a wide net. Some lines feel like they're aimed at Lil Baby and other affiliates within that same circle, maybe even names we don't fully know yet. It's layered, and it's dangerous, because Kendrick isn't just responding. He's dismantling an entire camp with coded darts that land deeper the more you replay them. And then comes the knockout. With one slick bar, Kendrick lays it out plain. The rap game was being run by frauds, wolves in sheep's clothing, until he stepped in and shattered the illusion. That's why the fakes are in their feelings now, because the safety net they had with Drake as their shield is gone. Kendrick silenced it, left them exposed, and reminded the culture who really sets the bar. And when the smoke clears, all roads still point back to Young Thug, the man whose meltdown might have triggered one of Kendrick's sharpest takedowns yet. It's right there in the next set of lines where Kendrick makes it crystal clear. After calling out the fakes, he spits, "Pipe down, Young. These some whole other politics." Come on, you don't even need me to decode that one. Using Young was Kendrick's slick way of calling out Young Thug by name, without putting him on blast too directly. And that's the brilliance. He's precise, but calculated, choosing not to push a man already buried in legal mess, while still making sure the jab hit. Now, when you line this up with Thug's real-life situation at the time, it makes perfect sense. Kendrick didn't need to spell everything out. He let the circumstances do half the talking. But then he cranks it up. He drops the heavy bar. Tell me why you rap if it's fictional. That's a dagger, exposing rappers who build entire careers off fake stories. And then the haymaker. Tell me why you fed if you criminal. That's the double punch. Not just questioning Thug, but pulling the thread all the way back to Gunna and that whole messy circle. And then comes the moment fans lost their minds. The line, a dot. Can I get a drop? With the response, no. That's not just a punchline. That's real history. Young Thug literally asked Kendrick for a feature on Business is Business, and Kendrick denied him. Kendrick took that real moment and immortalized it in a verse. That's as personal as it gets. But Kendrick didn't stop at just clowning Thug for begging. He used the same breath to call him out as a fake rapper, someone who did more damage than good by spitting lies from day one. And by weaving in that Fed versus criminal line, he tied it right back to the Gunna situation, suggesting that whatever dirt Thug was into, Kendrick knew enough to make himself look like a saint in comparison. That's the kind of layered writing that makes the verse both a diss and a revelation. See that Fed line Kendrick dropped. It carried layers on layers. It wasn't just about Young Thug's hotline moment. It doubled as a coded reference to the bigger picture. And when you look back, it feels like Kendrick was rapping with a crystal ball, already predicting exactly how things would unravel. The craziest part? It almost seems like the entire industry already knew the dirt long before fan pages blasted it out to the public. Kendrick just wove it into his verse months earlier, back in November. And here's where it gets even more powerful. That verse wasn't only a diss, it was a eulogy for the decay of Drake's whole side of hip-hop. He was calling out the rot in real time, and now that everything's fallen apart, the lines hit harder than ever. Every lyric lined up too perfectly to be a coincidence. What that tells us is simple. Kendrick saw this day coming. He knew eventually the truth would surface, and the puzzle pieces would snap together. And now, we're living in that exact moment. Thug sliding toward full rat status. Drake out here playing courtside Karen instead of Rap King, while Kendrick sits comfortably halfway to EGOT status, with trophies stacking like crazy. Think about it. Kendrick Lamar is now as marketable and household of a name as Josh Allen in football or Cooper Flagg in basketball. But the difference is he's still putting on for hip-hop with every move. While other rappers drag the culture down with scandals, lies, and clown behavior, Kendrick keeps showing just how high the art form can really reach. That's not just winning, that's redefining what winning looks like. And the craziest part? The more these guys keep failing, the more Kendrick keeps winning. And it's driving them absolutely mad. His rise is their downfall, and you can see it eating them alive in real time. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think about Kendrick Lamar's response to everything happening in hip-hop right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this moment is one for the history books. Oh, and if you made it this far in the video, channel memberships are officially live. That means exclusive emojis so you can clown the losers in style, plus special perks like having your name featured at the end of these videos. You can join right now through the link in the description. Don't miss out on being part of the real community. And listen, if you want to see how Kendrick's biggest wins lined up perfectly with Drake's biggest fails, then you've got to check out the suggested video on your screen right now. Because not only has Kendrick never been winning more, but Drake has never been failing harder. And with Young Thug's own words exposing him, the so-called Iceman album might be canceled before it even sees daylight. Make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with your crew, because the next bombshell is already on the way. See you on the next one.